I can't wait to share these crochet shorts with you. This was such a fun way to put a pair of shorts together. At a high level, it's 13 linen stitch squares, positioned around a pentagon in the front and a triangle in the back to create the shorts shape. I used a crocheted join to seam them all together, which made that part a lot more enjoyable than it could have been. What really put the fit of these over the top was the addition of an elastic waistband, which we'll talk about how to add and possible alternatives a bit later. So before we get started learning the linen stitch granny square motif, let's talk about the yarn I used and how I accomplished these two different rainbow color themes. You may think I have an eye for color, but these are simply all the colors that came in the yarn cakes that I used. I used Yarn Bee Sugar Wheel Cotton from Hobby Lobby in the colorway Sprinkles on Top, which is a 3-weight cotton color-changing cake yarn, and because I wanted those colors to change when I wanted them to, I actually went through the ball and at each color change would cut the yarn. So I wound up with a bunch of these smaller bobbins of yarn to work with. And as I worked the pattern, I would change color in the same order as the original yarn ball. So I went through the warm colors to teal for 7 of the squares, and then teal through the cool colors for the other 6. This might be a kooky way to go about picking yarn colors for a project, and it's actually on my summer bucket list to improve my knowledge of color theory for picking out even better project colors. And I'm currently doing just that with the help of Skillshare, sponsoring today's video. We all know Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes ranging from graphic design and illustration to photography and productivity. Skillshare offers something for everyone. The on-demand stackable lessons make me feel like I can go at my own pace, so it's totally suitable for beginners or advanced learners alike. I'm enjoying Color Theory, Get Inspired by Color by Sarah Parkinson Howe. We've brushed up on all the terminology related to color, and now we're delving into the psychology of color, which is already giving me so many ideas. I'm also interested in exploring this Sketching for Fashion Design class by Nino Villa to add my own illustrations to my patterns. So if you're looking to join me as we enhance our creative skills this summer, the first 500 people to use my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Don't miss out on the opportunity to invest in yourself and explore your creativity. Get started today. So let's actually work a linen stitch granny square, shall we? I used a 5.5mm hook, and I started with a magic circle by making a loose slip knot, and I like to chain one to kind of fasten onto my circle. Then work a single crochet into the circle and chain 1. Another single crochet in the circle, chain 1. And continue single crochet, chain 1 into the circle until you've got 8 single crochets and 8 chain 1s. Then we can close up our magic circle, like magic, and complete the round with a slip stitch into the first single crochet that you made. We'll keep the same color for round 2, and we're working in the round for these squares, so no turning your work. You'll just go right from that slip stitch into the first chain space from the previous round. And make a single crochet. And chain 1. This will be your first corner, so we'll make another single crochet into the same chain space. And chain 1. Then make a single crochet in the next chain space. Chain 1. In the next chain space, work another corner with a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, all in the same space. In the next space, work 1 single crochet, chain 1. Continue repeating a linen stitch corner, followed by a single crochet, chain 1, all the way around until you've worked into your last chain space. Then slip stitch to the first single crochet to complete round 2. Round 2 is done, and it's time to change color. I changed color every 2 rounds for my squares. So I grabbed the next color in my sequence and pulled through the live loop on my hook to change color, but you can do it any way that works for you. Just like round 2, we can go right into the next chain 1 space and work a corner. I like to bury my yarn tails as I work those 2 single crochets into that corner chain space. In every non-corner chain space, work a single crochet and chain 1. There will be 2 of those between corners on round 3. When you get to your next corner, work a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, into the corner chain space, and continue, working 1 single crochet, chain 1, into each regular chain space, and working a corner, aka 2 single crochets with chain 1s between them, into each corner chain space. And in fact, that's the repeat for the whole dang square. I love these linen stitch granny squares. I wish I'd tried them sooner. They're so easy to work and they have a wonderful texture. I'll show you another color change one more time. And like I mentioned, for squares that look like mine, you will change color every 2 rounds. I had 10 rounds total for the colorful yarns, plus an additional 3 rounds for my border that I did in the joining color. That white yarn, which was Hobby Lobby's I Love This Cotton. So my 13 round squares came out to roughly 6 inches each, or 15 centimeters. That's the important part. 6-inch squares. So do however many rounds you need to get 6 inches, if you're working the extra small or small sizes. Medium and large will add a round to each square, 14 rounds, and that will be a 6.5-inch square. Extra large and 2XL will do 15 rounds to get 7-inch squares. Now, I actually already showed you everything that you need to know to make the pentagon. It's just like the square motifs, but start with 10 single crochets and 10 chain 1s on round 1, rather than the 8 that we started with for the squares. And you'll have 5 corners, of course. The triangle, however, is done a little bit differently. I initially tried to do a triangle version of our linen stitch squares, but it didn't lay flat on the top like I wanted, so I had to do it this way. Start again with a magic circle, and I ran out of magenta yarn, so we're going with purple. I chain 1 to fasten onto my circle, and work 1 single crochet in the circle, chain 1, and another single crochet in the circle. This part will be familiar. Get those chain 1 single crochets set up into your magic circle, and you'll have a total of 6 single crochets for this one. The only difference being you won't chain 1 at the end, so you'll have a total of 6 single crochets and 5 chain 1s. And tighten up your magic circle. At the start of row 2, chain 1, but this is just a turning chain, because we will be turning our work and working in rows in order to make this triangle. Right into that first chain space, we'll work a corner with a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the same space. Then chain 1, work 1 single crochet in the next chain space. Chain 1, and in the next chain space we'll work a corner. This will become the center point of your triangle. Chain 1, work 1 single crochet in the next chain space. And chain 1, work a corner into the last chain space. And now we've done 2 rows, so it's time to change color. You can change color and then go right into the first corner and work another corner with a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. And at this point you can see the similarity between the triangle and the squares that we've already done. It's just slightly different because we're turning our work and working in rows rather than rounds. So go ahead and work all remaining rows to match the row count of your squares. And you will have a triangle that's like a perfect half slice of one of those squares that you've made. Except it's kind of got a raw edge on the top. So to close that up, right where my working yarn is, I started working along that edge in single crochet, with 1 single crochet stitch for every row of linen stitch. With that little border done, we can start building the back panel of our shorts right off of this triangle here. If you did 2 different color theme squares like I did, you can get 2 squares that are different from your triangle and line them up along its flat sides. Then you'll get 3 squares of the same color theme as the triangle and line them up like little diamonds along the remaining sides of the top 2 squares. And lastly, we'll stick 2 more squares here. And this is the orientation of the squares of the back panel of your shorts. Now let's set up the front panel, which looks a bit more like shorts right off the bat. So I'll show you how to set this one up, because once I deconstruct it, it's like, oh no, I'm lost. So the front is built off the pentagon. You want it lying like this, with the flat edge on top and the point facing straight down. Then place 4 squares of the opposite color theme on each edge of the pentagon, minus the flat edge on top. Then you stick 2 squares of the same color theme as the pentagon in these little empty spaces here. Seam these all together and you've got the front panel of your shorts. Now let's talk about seaming. We'll be doing a single crochet seam, and I tried to map out a path to do it like all in one go without cutting the yarn, but I don't think it can be done. So you can just start with a long seam like this one through here, and I'll start at the corners that are touching on these outer squares here. While crocheting, we want our right sides of our squares facing each other and the wrong sides facing out. You can fasten on a new yarn and work 1 single crochet in the corner chain space of the square closest to you. Find the corner of the farther square and work 1 single crochet. Come back to your front square and work 1 single crochet in the next chain space. Go to your back square and work 1 single crochet in the next chain space. Continue working 1 single crochet in each chain space, alternating squares each time. I love how well this seam works with linen stitch. It's like magic, and it comes together so fast because we're literally just crocheting. When you reach the next corner, work 1 single crochet in each corner like before. And we're ready to add more squares. After each seam, I like to line my pieces up again just to get my bearings and see which direction I might want to head next. I'm going to keep going this way, so I'll line up my next 2 squares with the wrong sides facing out. Just make sure the squares you already seamed are facing the same way. I forgot to do that here, so I actually did have to unravel it and flip those first squares around, but we're going to ignore that so I can show you how to add the next set of squares, with a single crochet right into the corner space of that first close square, and into the corner of the next new square. And continue on single crocheting in each chain space, alternating squares every time. I've got most of my project seamed here, and I wanted to show you not to stress about having to cut the yarn and reattach it while seaming. You can see I need to pop a little seam down here in the V shape between the legs, and then I need to reattach here and seam along this gap. Then I can finally seam the other hip seam, which reminded me, a few of the sizes you'll need to add a row of linen stitch on each hip seam. So if you're working the small, large, or 2XL sizes, After you've seamed each panel, but before you seam them together along the hips, take each panel and work one more row of linen stitch on each hip seam of each panel. So you'll be adding that extra row to 4 different spots. Then you can single crochet seam those new rows together to complete the shorts. Extra small, medium, and extra large, no extra hip rows, small, large, and 2XL, extra hip rows. Okay? Okay. And if for any reason our gauges are different or my measurements are crap and your shorts turn out too small, you can add extra rows at these hip seams until the shorts fit. So the single crochet seam is quite visible, but that's why we put it on the inside. It's still comfortable to wear, and then when we turn our piece right side in, it has a beautiful seamless look. So let's take a little tour. Here's the front and the back. At this stage, your shorts will be quite low-waisted and likely a bit loose-waisted. That was intentional because I designed these shorts to be worn with an elastic waistband. Specifically, I used this 2.5-inch elastic ribbon that you can find at the craft store. It's often called crochet headband ribbon, and I go into more depth about this material in this video, but basically it's an elastic ribbon sold by the roll that is meant to mimic the look of crochet. So why not use it to our advantage as an easy, out-of-the-box elastic waistband for our shorts? All you need to do is measure it around your waist, right where you want the shorts to hit, and we don't want it to be our whole waist circumference because we need to account for that stretch. So let it stretch around and then relax the ribbon, and you'll have like a 3-inch gap. Then you can even cut this stuff right there, and it won't unravel as long as you don't tug at that raw edge too much. Next, you'll want to fold it in half, and we're going to seam the bottom edges together. You might be tempted to work into these little loops, but I tried that and I found it wasn't sturdy enough. So work into these gaps here between the little puffs, and be sure to work at least 1 stitch in from the raw edge. You can fasten on here with a new yarn. Just use the same yarn from your shorts, and the yarn doesn't have to be stretchy. You can insert your hook into both of these first gaps, in the front and the back, and make a single crochet into the next 2 spaces, and single crochet. As you're working along, just be sure that your stitches are not so tight that they're constricting the stretch of your elastic. If the stitches are kind of cinching up and not giving you that movement, you'll want to go up a hook size or 2. And you can continue along working those single crochets, and when you get to the end of your piece, we'll contend with those raw edges and seam the waistband in the round. I did this by working a row of surface crochet down the width of my piece, with the 2 ends slightly overlapping. It's a bit of a fiddly thing to film, but as long as you keep your yarn in the back and slip stitch through both pieces, you'll have your little seam. Then I liked to do it one more time back down the other way. This made my seam super duper secure. And I got my working yarn back down to my single crochets so that I'm ready to add the waistband to my shorts. So you might be thinking, what are the odds that the stitch count of the shorts and the waistband are exactly the same? Well, they're not. So I counted the number of chain spaces along the waistline of the shorts and got roughly 75 stitches. I counted the number of single crochets on the waistband, which was 64, so the shorts stitch count minus the waistband count equals 11. Taking that shorts stitch count and divide by 11 is roughly 7. So that means I'll seam the waistband stitches to the short stitches 1 for 1, and then every 7 stitches or so, I'll seam 2 short stitches to 1 waistband stitch. So let's turn the shorts inside out again, and I'll show you how that's done. We'll line up the waistband with the center back of the shorts, and I'll insert into the first stitch on my waistband and into the center stitch of the shorts, and make a single crochet. Into the next stitch on the shorts, and the waistband, and single crochet. Into the shorts, waistband, single crochet. I'll continue on like this for 6 stitches, and then I'll just work the 7th short stitch and insert my hook back into that last previous waistband stitch again to account for the difference in our waistband and shorts stitch counts. Continue like that, crocheting your shorts to your waistband evenly. And so far I've just been working into those single crochets along the top of our triangle, but for the majority of the waistband that's in the linen stitch, you'll just work into the chain spaces, similar to how we seamed the squares together. Insert into a chain space, insert into the next waistband stitch, and work 1 single crochet until you've worked all the way around. And I just slip stitch into that first stitch, and there's our waistband seam. Check to make sure it's not too tight. We want that elastic to be free to do its thing. Then you can get to work weaving in 30,000 ends, or you can just ignore most of them like I am. And here are our fancy new elastic waistband granny square shorts. I love them, I love them, I love them, I love them. They fit so well, they're so comfortable. I highly recommend this elastic waistband hack, but if you can't be bothered, you could absolutely add like 8 to 10 more rounds of linen stitch, then fold it over and seam it down while adding a drawstring for an equally cute and functional waistband as well. As proud as I am of these shorts, I have a couple observations and I would be remiss if I didn't share them with you. And this is just related to my square color choice and a little optical illusion-y thing going on. First of all, the cam is towing. And I think it would be a little more flattering if the center pentagon was maybe all white or only had the first 2 or 3 rounds in different colors. Then our eye wouldn't be naturally as directed in this direction, if you catch my drift. Also, the back center square kind of has a similar thing going on. Like, is it a granny square or did you sit in some granny square ketchup, you know? So maybe a pure white square or otherwise solid color would serve us a little bit better in this spot. Just something to keep in mind, but I still love them and I'm going to be wearing them to the pool all summer long. I hope you enjoy this pattern. You could copy it with different granny square styles as well, but the linen stitch square was also so versatile and fun to work. Like, I want to use it for other projects now too. Let me know, what was your favorite part? The linen stitch square, constructing them into shorts, or this new elastic waistband thing? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!